The opinions expressed in the Brothers-in-Law show are for informational purposes only and are not a substitute for personal professional legal advice.
Thanks for tuning in to Brothers-in-Law on Go Country 105. I'm Larry Mandel.
And I'm Rob Mandel.
And we've been trial attorneys here in Los Angeles for over 40 years.
On our show, we will discuss current events, talk about legal issues, and have some very entertaining guests stop by. So stay tuned every week for Brothers-in-Law right here on Go Country 105. Here we are, the Brothers-in-Law. Welcome back to our show. We're so happy to be here. I'm Rob Mandel.
And I'm Larry Mandel, and we're Brothers-in-Law. Hey, let's give a big shout out to Debbie, the mortgage mom.
Love following Debbie. Love her show.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
Yeah, I'm so glad we come right after her, too. So, Larry.
Hey, Rob.
Yeah,
you remember
man.
when I don't know if you know this, but I was working at a plant nursery. I was about 17 years old.
Yeah.
And one of the jobs, I was a delivery guy, and we had this little pickup truck, like a Datsun pickup truck.
I had one of those.
Yeah, I know you did. I sold it to you.
That's right. That's right. That was my first
And then
car.
you wrecked it. You
Yeah.
ruined it.
I didn't wreck it.
Yeah, that's another story.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I'm transporting these heavy bags of fertilizer in the pickup truck, and I was on Roscoe Boulevard in the valley, and all of a sudden, one of the bags, really heavy bag, fell into the middle of the street. I pulled over, I ran in the middle of the street, and I lifted up this bag as fast as I could, and my back just went out. I was like 17 years old.
Wow, 17 with a bad back. That's a bummer.
That was.
So did you make a workers' comp claim, I hope?
No, because I had no idea. It was like a mom and pop operation. I told them what happened, and they just said, "All right, you're off work." I didn't get any money for the time I missed from work. They didn't pay for my medical expenses.
Wow.
I just suffered.
Yeah.
I was very
Back
naive.
in the day, people
Yeah.
just didn't know their rights.
But now,
well,
they're going to learn.
If you get hurt at work
today,
now,
especially.
you got to know you have some rights, and we're so lucky to have with us in our studio today Mr. Ernie Boungiorno, who's one of the top workers' comp lawyers here in L.A. And why don't you introduce him? Yeah, hey,
welcome, Ernest Boungiorno.
Hey, Ernie.
Hi, guys. Thanks a lot for having me.
Our pleasure. Thank you. Welcome to the show. Tell us about yourself.
I'm Italian.
Okay.
Buongiorno. Who would have guessed?
Who would know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been practicing workers' compensation in the area for almost 30 years. I'm originally from New Jersey, where there are many Italians.
That's right. Jersey Shore, man.
Jersey Shore. And and I've been exclusively doing workers' comp for 30 years. So
You poor guy.
yeah, I know.
Yeah.
It's a challenge. It's a challenging area of law.
It really is.
And tell us a little bit
'Cause
why it is
it's
so challenging.
Well,
Yeah.
the big thing is that the legislature keeps changing the laws every 7 to 10 years.
Yeah.
So it's almost having to learn a different area of law every 7 to 10 years. It's not the same now as it was 20 years ago.
Right.
All the rules are different.
And they keep making it harder and harder for legitimately hurt people to get any kind of benefits, right?
That's correct. Everything is pretty much now in the hands of the insurance carriers.
Gee, right where you want them.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah. So let's say somebody's injured and they don't know what's the first thing they do? They're at work and they're injured, and it's not just like a fingernail or something. It's more serious. You know, it could be a broken arm, could be a back injury like what happened to me. What do they do?
Well, regardless, Larry, of whether it's serious or not, a lot of these injuries occur to be not serious when they first occur. But then over time, applicants start, experiencing these symptoms.
Yeah.
So the very first thing you do, you have to report every injury to the employer and ask them for a workers' compensation claim form. That's the very first thing you have to do. Now, whether they follow up with it or not isn't that important. What's important is that they notify the employer right away, within at least 24 hours.
See, I think a lot of people don't realize that. They just say, well, I hurt myself. They go home, they take some aspirin, whatever.
They don't want to make a big deal.
Right.
They don't want to. They don't want
jeopardize
the employer,
their job.
Right. They're thinking, oh, I'll get fired, or I'll have a bad relationship with the boss now if I complain.
Right.
But there is a rule about that.
Well, yeah, and that's a legitimate concern for people who are injured because they don't want to lose their job. And in California, as we know, that you can't discriminate against somebody who was injured, and you can't fire them because they were injured. You can't fire them because they report an injury.
It's retaliatory.
But they do it.
They do it.
The employer figures out a way to do it, right?
Well, they do it. There's, a lot of these employers would rather have the litigation expense if the person files a wrongful termination case against them, rather than to have this person on their payroll as an injured employee. So, yeah, it's a concern.
But what does the injured employee do to protect himself or herself?
Well, once again, you have to report the injury so that at least it's on record. And if the employer does terminate them or discriminates against them in any way, there's a labor code section that we file along with a workers' compensation claim called 132A, which protects their rights as an employee for being injured on the job. And in addition to that, they may have civil remedies, as you well know, that they can pursue for being wrongfully terminated.
Okay.
Yeah, and one of the things that always impressed me, when I first started off as a lawyer, I did a few other areas of law besides tort litigation and personal injury, which is what we do 100% of right now. And I did, I want to say maybe 4 or 5 workers' comp cases. And I think a lot of people don't understand that workers' comp is its own complete separate area with its own complete separate courts, separate judges.
Yeah.
Everything is completely different. And you got all these rules and regulations that you were talking about. And this idea that you can just, fake an injury or exaggerate something and say you're injured at work and make a bunch of money, that can be more false and wrong. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's just not the reality.
But you hear on the news, you hear a lot about, when they are these scams. So how does one detect that, in your business?
Well, it does take experience to weed people out. And like Rob, like you said, it's a different animal than personal injury. It's an administrative court. There are no juries. There's only judges. And it's regulated by the state. So if somebody walks into my office and say, got hurt at work, I have to talk to them and ask them details. Okay, well, did you report it? Did you go to the doctors? Some people say, well, I didn't go to the doctor because I thought it would be fine, And then 6 months later, they don't go to the doctor for 6 months. They went once, and 6 months later, and they say, well, I injured myself 6 months ago. Well, did you report it? No, I didn't.
Yeah.
Well, why didn't you report it then? Well, I thought it would get better. And this is after they terminate the person. That happens a lot. People get terminated, right? People get terminated after working there for years. And then
just because they said I got hurt.
Well, they get terminated, and then they say they got hurt.
Oh, so it happens both ways.
It happens both ways, yeah. And if you don't have the evidence to back it up in the beginning, it's a tough hill to climb.
So the lesson to be learned is what you've already told us. Part of it is to report it. What else, though?
Report it. Ask to go to the doctor, even if you don't think it's a big deal. Ask to go to the doctor to be checked out.
Now, is there some?
Because you never know. It may be, something that's like a sleeper injury, right? It's I just tweaked my back. It's going to be fine in a couple of days, and then 3 months later they're miserable.
Yeah. There's an interesting story, if you don't mind.
No, go ahead.
I represented a bus driver, and she was driving a bus, and as one of her stops, it's a school bus, and at one of her stops, as the kids were getting off, one of the students, those prank shock pens. Did you ever see those things?
Yeah.
Okay, so one of the kids goes to the bus driver and shocks her in the neck
Oh,
with this shock pen.
That's crazy.
Right? I mean, it's not a lot of voltage.
But still,
But
It's like one of those
it's
handshake
shocking.
things.
It's one of those handshake things.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Right. So, she feels it and gets a little, I'm a little shocked for a couple of minutes. And then that's it, right? But then about 3 or 4 months later, and she reported it, which was a good idea. So she reported it. She said, no, I don't need to go to the doctors. But about 3 or 4 months later, she started feeling these like neuropathy symptoms in her arms.
Nerves tingling and things like
Tingling
that.
and stuff.
Running down into her hands
Into
and
her
arms.
hands. And, so we sent her to a neurologist. And the neurologist said, there's definitely a problem here. I can't put my finger on it. But all the tests are positive. We don't know really what it is, but it's really serious. And this woman had a legitimate problem with her neurological system.
And they traced
Jeez.
it back to the little
Oh,
jolt.
yeah.
So the kid just
Bizarre.
happened to hit that one nerve that was going to be sensitive to this device, this little toy,
Yeah.
and mess her up.
Well,
oh
that's
my
weird.
gosh.
We're Larry and Rob Mandel, the brothers-in-law, here on Go Country 105. Do you have a legal issue you need help with? We want to hear from you.
Find us on Instagram and send us a message. Then tune in on Saturdays at 8 a.m. right here on Go Country 105. Hey, if you missed any part of this show or you just want to hear it again, go to brothersonlaw.com for all of our previous shows and all things Brothers on Law.
So, Ernie, what I wanted to talk about is kind of the protocol. So, let's say somebody's injured and they go, they report it and they're sent to a doctor. Are they required to go to a certain doctor?
Within the first 30 days of the injury, they're required to go to the employer's designated doctor. So the employer has to designate this particular facility or doctor to go to.
And this is the doctor that's in the pocket of the insurance company, right?
Yes,
Pretty much.
Well, they all are now. But
Yeah.
But for the first 30 days, they must go where the employer sends them.
And do you see a lot of washouts by those doctors?
Well, mostly they're just like industrial clinic doctors. They're not specialists. They're just GPs. Sometimes they'll just see a physician's assistant. So they really won't see anything. They won't even maybe get any treatment aside from some medication. But then after the 30 days, they can change their doctor and go to another doctor. It's of their choosing, but it still has to be within the employer's network of doctors.
But what if...
Wow.
I mean, it just sounds crazy to me in the sense that what if this person really is badly injured? I mean, really, like broken leg,
Well, they can
or-
go to the hospital. They don't have to go to their doctor.
Oh,
Well-
yeah. If it's a catastrophic injury, that's the first thing you should do is go to the emergency room. Yeah.
Right, but then they're still stuck for the next 30 days with this, hip pocket doctor.
Well, I don't know if that's necessarily the case.
Well, let
Maybe
me ask.
Ernie
I'm
can weigh in on that.
I'm asking the expert here.
Yeah, but I'm challenging what you're saying.
Well, I'm just posing the question.
All right.
Go ahead.
All
Mr.
right, calm down, everybody.
Boungiorno. Yes. My brother likes to interrupt
this
me.
This is brotherly love at its best.
Do you have a brother?
No, I don't.
Okay, so you don't.
Lucky
understand.
you.
Yeah.
I'm the king.
Yeah.
And anyway, no, in a catastrophic situation, you'd go to the hospital, and however long you stay in the hospital, you're in the hospital, right? After the 30 days is up, or if you're even within the 30 days, if they retain an attorney, what we do is we contact the company insurance carrier. We say, send us a list of your medical provider networks, a list of the specialists in the area that we need. So if it's a neurologist or an orthopedic surgeon, and they'll send us their MPN list, and then we'll find a doctor that we're familiar with, that we've been working with for a number of years. I'll pretty much know who they are, and then we'll make that referral to that doctor within their network, and then we're off to the races.
So there's two questions that I think most people have in their minds when they talk about work injuries. And the first one is, and these are backwards in chronology, but I think it's more important to understand what are the benefits? What do you get out of the system if you have a good attorney like yourself on board, and they're able to navigate through all the little hurdles and gates that they put up? So what can one expect to how would they benefit by going ahead and pursuing the workers' comp claim?
Boy, that was a long question. Why don't you just say, what are the benefits that somebody can receive?
I don't know if I can answer that in less than a minute.
Let's
but
try.
I'll try.
Yeah.
The first thing people have to know is that you can't be compensated for pain and suffering
Right.
in workers' compensation, and you cannot be compensated for lost wages. There's a schedule of benefits that the state of California has codified that they're entitled to. So number one, they're entitled to medical treatment paid for 100% by the insurance carrier, the workers' compensation insurance carrier.
Okay.
Number two, they're entitled to what we call temporary total disability payments. If they're off work, designated by a doctor, they cannot work at their job, they're entitled to 2/3 of their average weekly earnings every week while the doctor has them off work.
Okay.
If they do not fully recover from their injury, they're entitled to permanent disability compensation. Now, that doesn't mean that they get compensated for the rest of their life. It means that they have a partial permanent disability condition, which would entitle them to a scheduled amount of money. It's already predetermined by the legislature.
It's like a rating schedule.
I'm sorry?
It's a rating schedule
Yes.
for the permanent disability. Like it depends on the type of injury
Correct.
and how the severity, like where they are as far as permanent and stationary.
Well, permanent stationary means the doctor said, okay, well, we've given you 6 months of medical treatment, whatever it is, and you're really not going to get any better than this. You're not going to get any worse for all intents and purposes. Your condition's like this. And then they give them a rating according to the state guidelines.
But is this the workers' comp, the employer's doctor that's doing this, or has it shifted at this point?
Well, that's the other part of the equation. After the doctor that's treating them releases them from care, depending upon what that doctor says, either the insurance carrier or the applicant's attorney can contest what that doctor says. And then you go to what's called a panel qualified medical examiner. And that's a doctor that there's a list of 3 doctors that's sent to the parties, and one of those doctors is the doctor that makes the decision about the permanent disability in the case. It's a very intricate process, and it takes a long time, especially now, because it takes so long to get into the doctors. It takes so long for the doctors to issue reports. It takes 3 months to get a court date from when you first file. It takes another 3 months to get a trial date. So all the procedural stuff takes a lot longer than it used to.
Stay connected with us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and of course, brothersonlaw.com.
Hey, if you missed any part of this show or you just want to hear it again, go to brothersonlaw.com for all of our previous shows and all things Brothers on Law.
I keep hearing these horror stories about people who need treatment and they're being denied because the insurance company really holds the keys. And they're hip pocket doctors. And so guys like you have to go running into court and talk to these judges and beg, basically, for every little thing that this person needs. Now, is that true, or is that exaggerated?
Well, you're not exaggerating at all, but you're partially true.
Okay.
What happens is a doctor will request an injection or some kind of treatment, and the insurance company has 5 days to approve it or not approve it. It's called utilization review.
Oh boy, what a weird word for that.
So let's say they deny it within the 5 days. Then within 30 days, you have to appeal that to something called independent medical review. Independent medical review are a group of unknown doctors somewhere in the country that review this request for medical treatment. And IMR sends back their decision as to whether or not this person should get the medical
And these
treatment.
guys are paid by?
Whom?
They are paid by the insurance carriers.
Of course.
Okay.
And they know where their bread is being buttered.
Correct. And neither party can know the identities of these doctors. And we're not allowed to cross-examine them. We're not allowed to know who they are. And we're not allowed to know why they denied this medical
And this
treatment.
this is in liberal, hippy-dippy California.
Yes, sir. And people come to me and say, why, I can't get my medical treatment approved. And guess what? And this is the capper. After IMR makes their decision, the judges have no power to enforce any medical treatment. Nothing. The only
How
way
is
they
that
have
Final say.
the only way the judge can approve medical treatment is if the insurance carrier misses that 5-day window.
That's crazy.
It's form over substance, basically.
That really is. I mean, that almost sounds unconstitutional.
Well-
like you're being denied your
Right to cross-examine.
all kinds of normal rights.
Yeah, the
right?
due process
Due
rights.
process.
Yeah,
right.
and there's been cases that went up on this
appeal.
issue with regards to the constitutionality of independent medical review, and they were all struck down because it's a legislative doctrine.
Wow.
It's terrible.
But that means the courts really aren't doing their function, because when there's a bad law, the courts are supposed to step in and say that doesn't jibe with our Constitution,
Right.
and make it right.
Right.
What's the basis of this? It's just why we're streamlining the system,
Well-
and this is why we're doing it.
A big reason why this happened was because there were a lot of unscrupulous doctors and surgery centers that were making tons and tons of money by providing unnecessary medical treatment. And if you probably follow the
So
news,
the bad apples,
oh yeah,
Ruin the
and there are
Barrel.
hot.
yeah,
the barrel, Larry.
Thank you.
Make your metaphor match.
but yeah, that's what happened. Doctors made a lot of money, surgeons made a lot of money, and as you probably read in the news, there have been a lot of federal indictments of doctors and lawyers who have been getting kickbacks from these surgery centers providing all
I
this
see.
treatment that wasn't necessary.
What is the solution?
Well, the solution I tell my clients now is, you can settle it and let the insurance company continue paying for your medical treatment in the future, and you'll get a small stipend of money. The other way to settle it is, and you get that stipend paid every 2 weeks for a certain period of time. The other way to do it is to settle the case by a lump sum of money where you buy out, the insurance company's right to give you the medical treatment in the future. And I usually tell people, look, if you have medical insurance, even if it's Medi-Cal, if you have medical insurance, or your husband has medical insurance, your spouse, or you're covered under some kind of plan, settle out your workers' compensation case.
Lump sum.
Get out of the system, and go get your medical treatment through your own health insurance,
Right.
because under the Affordable Care Act, they cannot discriminate against you for having a pre-existing condition.
That
or a
part is a
work-related
godsend.
condition.
That's good
Yeah.
advice.
Yeah,
No,
and
very good advice.
at least for now.
Yeah.
We hope that doesn't change, because that will really affect us if they do withdraw that pre-existing condition under ACA.
Have you suffered or been injured by someone else's negligence? When you need a legal team that will stand up for what is right, won't give up the fight and obtain justice, call 818-886-6600. Mandel Trial Lawyers specializes in personal injury cases of all types. Whether it's a car accident, product or premises liability, dog bite, or a catastrophic injury, Mandel Trial Lawyers are there for you when the fight is worth it. Call now for your free consultation. 818-886-6600. Let the scales of justice tip in your favor.
Ernie, you mentioned something about in the workers' comp system, the injured party, the applicant, is not entitled to pain and suffering, non-economic losses. That's different in our world, right, Rob? Because that's what we
Right.
seek for our clients.
And there are situations, and as you well know, where someone is injured on the job, but they also have that personal injury claim.
Like the pizza
against
delivery guy who gets rear-ended.
That's a classic example. Would be the guy who's delivering pizza and his car gets rear-ended. So he has his workers' comp claim because he's on the job delivering the pizza, but he also has that claim against the driver of the other car for rear-ending him. And explain how those two match up and mix.
Well, it's a double-edged sword. It's kind of good to have both cases, because what happens is you get the medical treatment through the workers' compensation carrier. You still get your benefits every 2 weeks if you're temporarily totally disabled, and then your personal injury case is riding along with that. So you guys don't have to do really too much until it comes time to settle.
Or go to trial.
Or go to trial.
Right.
Okay.
Well, let's talk about settlement for a moment. You guys have a different way of formulating the value of your PI case, and we have a different way of formulating the value of our workers' comp case. So at the end of the day, what happens is you can't double dip.
Right.
You can't get money from both the PI case and the comp case.
Right.
So that all the money that the comp carrier paid in medical treatment, they have a lien against your case, your personal injury case.
Right.
And the applicant can't receive money from both settlements. So the workers' comp carrier gets a dollar for dollar credit against any money in the personal injury case.
Right.
And then if there's a difference, then obviously the applicant will get the difference.
Right. But
It still works out for you.
It still works out
It
for
still
them
works out.
because the pain and suffering element of the personal injury case may be worth so much money that they don't really care about this, whatever the dollar for dollar credit might be.
Correct.
And because, as you were saying, the Affordable Care Act, if they have valid insurance, if they still need future medical care, that should be able to be shifted over to that insurer.
That's
And
correct.
that dollar to dollar sometimes is adjusted because of certain things, such as if the employer was negligent to some extent.
That's a different story. Yeah, if there's employer negligence, then our credit issue is a whole different.
Yeah.
We're Larry and Rob Mandel, the brothers-in-law, here on Go Country 105. Do you have a legal issue you need help with? We want to hear from you.
Find us on Instagram and send us a message. Then tune in on Saturdays at 8 a.m. right here on Go Country 105. Hey, if you missed any part of this show or you just want to hear it again, go to brothersonlaw.com for all of our previous shows and all things Brothers on Law.
You know what? We could keep talking to Ernie Boungiorno here forever and ever on this topic, and it is such a viable and important topic. But I wanted to check in
You want to
with
give a
our...
tip of the day, Rob, or maybe?
All right, go ahead.
I'll
Yeah.
do a tip of the day. Do you sit all day at work?
There you go.
Try to
Okay.
replace your desk with a standing desk, or they make chairs with pedalers like a bicycle, and you can burn some calories while you're at work. Also, you could try a balance ball chair, which engages your core, so as you sit at your desk, and you can purchase this for like $50 or something on Amazon. So
Really? I'm
there
not
are
sure
some
about
ways.
a desk chair with pedalers for $50.
I
think
know.
you got
they're
that
talking about the
underpriced.
ball chair.
Oh,
They're
a
talking
ball
about the balance chair, but
Oh, yeah. But that is a way of avoiding like a work injury, I guess.
ergonomically.
Yeah.
a
What do you
chair
think about
that's-
that?
Well, you brought up something interesting. I know we have not too much time left, but if I may, there are two types of injuries that workers need to know about. The specific injury, when you fall down the stairs, you lift something, and it happens at a specific date or a specific time. The other one's called a cumulative trauma injury,
That's
where the
right.
symptoms develop over a period of time. And some people don't quite understand that, workers. They say, oh, I injured myself. And we say, well, how did you do that? I lifted something. And then you go back and get the medical records, and you see this person's been treating for months and months and months. And we say, well, when did this start? Oh, it happened months ago. And then it got worse. That's a cumulative trauma injury.
Right.
Takes place over a long period of time due to the exposure.
That's a good point. Yeah,
Hey.
continuous trauma.
Hey, Ernie, if someone wants to find out more about that or to understand if they do have a work injury, how can they get a hold of you?
You can go to my website. It's ebcomplaw.com. That's ebcomplaw.com. And go to our website. You can find out more information about that. Or you can contact my office directly. You could look it up. We're on Burbank Boulevard in Tarzana, not
What's
so
the
far
phone
from
number?
you guys.
The phone number, Ernie.
818-996-9800.
That's an easy one.
Yeah.
One more time, though.
818-996-9800.
All right, cool,
We
cool.
have time for a true and false.
No, we don't have time for that. Sorry, we want to thank Mr. Ernie Boungiorno for spending his Saturday morning with us, and we want to thank all of you who tuned in today to catch us so early in the morning. And please catch us again next week at 8 a.m. right here on Go Country 105. And remember,
Let the scales of justice tip in your favor.
The opinions expressed in the Brothers-in-Law show are for informational purposes only and are not a substitute for personal professional legal advice.